And welcome to Around the Ozarks Spotlight. Each week we uncover the stories behind the people who live and work in Southwest Missouri, those individuals with entrepreneurial spirit who work to better the lives of others or even put pen to paper to write books about the stories and the history of the Ozarks and its people. I'm your host, Scott Meier. Today we are exploring the world of local theater, which is a personal passion of mine. We've got Josh Inmon, who's the director and choreographer of the current production of the hit Broadway musical Waitress. Hey, Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad to have you because we're right in the middle of the run for Waitress, and I'm hoping when this airs and folks can see it and hear it, there's still tickets available.
Yeah, they're going quick for sure. At the time of this recording, we just finished up our first weekend, and it was a great success. We had some great audiences, and the buzz is out there. So tickets are
Well, I'm
going
not
fast,
surprised
but
at all. My wife and I were able to see it early on, and as I'm sure I've mentioned to you before, we spent a lot of time on Broadway and off Broadway seeing shows when we lived in New York. And this version of Waitress, I think, tops off Broadway. It's a lot of fun. Where did you find the folks that are the main characters? They're terrific.
we are so lucky in this community to be a community of this size and to have the talent in this area is just, it's unheard of. Beth Doman, our executive director, always says that, it's a freaky vortex of talent here in Southwest Missouri. And she's so right. We're always surprised, no matter what show it is, the talent at Springfield Little Theater and just in our community is exceptional.
In this case, though, it's not even so much just the singing. You've also got the dancing and
Mhm.
a small orchestra that sounds like a large orchestra.
Yeah. I think there's 8 musicians back there. The way that it's set up on stage, you can only see about three of them, but
That's
they
correct.
keep going back. Yeah, there's about 8 musicians and about 40 people in the cast, so it's a relatively large cast. There's been some larger ones, of course, at Springfield Little Theater, but for 40 people in a show like Waitress is relatively large.
Well, I can only imagine, and I think we've talked about this before. When you do the initial work to find the characters for a show like this, and this is an adult themed show, so people know that,
Mhm.
but it's funny. I mean, it's laugh out loud funny. But when you're exploring the talent to find the right people to fit the roles, and obviously in this case, I think everybody is perfect for what the role they're in. How many deep do you go? I mean, I can't imagine it's just one for each. You must be talking or listening to numerous people for each role.
Oh yeah. We had almost 100 people audition for Waitress, and like
Wow.
I said, we used about 40. And
Hmm.
then as far as the principal characters, it's really just putting together a puzzle. So I always think of it as, maybe there's somebody who fits this character perfect, and they have the voice, and they have exactly what you're looking for. But you also have to think about all the other people around them and
Hmm.
who are they interacting with? What are those relationships like? You want it to be believable on stage, and so it's definitely a puzzle. So we might have 5 people called back for a certain part. There might be 10 people for another part. So
Sure.
callback nights, which is our last night of auditions, those are usually very late nights.
Now, do you have a group of people that helps you, or is at the end of the day you have to make that choice?
Yeah, it depends on the show. For this, the music director Catherine Cole obviously helps with the casting process, and then we
Hmm.
have our associate choreographer Austin Paget, who has worked with me quite a bit and grew up in our education program here. She has
Hmm.
helped with this show as well. So for this, we had a team of 3, but it kind of varies show to show.
Now, I saw some new faces. Actually, lots of new faces. Who was the character he plays? The oh gosh, he's a funny guy. He's
Is it
oh
Odie?
gosh,
Is it the
is it Odie who does the dance when he's? I know I've
Yes,
got the
he's the clogger.
where did we where did we find him?
You know,
He's great.
yeah, so that actor is his name is Bailey Deal, and he
Hmm.
actually grew up here in the education department at Springfield Little Theater. And so when I was many years ago, when I was in college and I was just starting my teaching journey here at Springfield Little Theater, he was one of my students. And then
Oh,
he
wow,
went to school for acting and went out to LA and had some work out there. And then
sure,
the pandemic brought him back. And so this is
wow.
his first time back on stage at the Landers in many years, but he is fantastic. He's so
I
fun to
can't
work with.
imagine he's not going to find his way into more productions. He's
Absolutely.
You
He's
talk
very
about
talented.
believable. Well, you talk about a believable character. I mean, he was everything I think that character needed to be.
Yeah.
Is that the character you were looking for, or did you help build that character like that?
It's a little of both. I think the best productions and the best directors, kind of have that push and pull with the
Hmm.
actors. And so certainly you have a vision for the show and you have in your head what you want it to look like and what you want it to be. But the
Sure.
beauty of live theater and working with all of these talented actors is, they get a little reign as well. So, they might try an idea, or they might kind of play with the idea that I've given them and take it to the next level. And I always say, it's just like a ship captain. There's only
Hmm.
so much as the director that you can do, that you can control, and so you have to rely on those actors, especially when they have that talent and that skill. Let them play, let them develop it, and then I'll kind of rein it in, or shape it a little bit to be what I want it to be. But when you have such talent in this community, it would be a disservice to the show for me to just make it exactly what I want it to be, if that makes sense.
Sure. My guest today on Around the Ozark Spotlight is Josh Inmon. Josh, certainly not your first rodeo as director and choreographer for production at Springfield's Little Theater. I was looking through the uh, some of the things that I had for notes for tonight's conversation. And I see that I sit on the board of the Springfield Symphony. It's our 90th year, and this is the 90th year for Springfield's Little Theater.
It is, isn't that incredible?
Well,
It's
it is, thinking that 91 years ago, they didn't have anything.
right.
And now
Well,
you got everything. So, yeah.
yes, yeah.
But
It's a
yeah,
it's
to
very
to
special.
do productions like this for that long a time it's amazing. How long have you been involved?
So I did my first show as an actor here at Springfield Little Theater in 2003. I was a
Okay.
freshman in high school. And I always say, I did that first production and then I never left. So certainly throughout high school and college, my main focus was performing. And I
Uh huh.
did roughly, I think, 25, 26 shows as a performer here at Springfield Little Theater, and then kind of transitioned to choreography, and then direction and choreography.
Now, of the cast members in this production, how many are in their first big role?
So we have, I believe we have about 15 who are making their Springfield Little Theater debut, which is always
Okay.
really exciting. That's something we're really proud of.
Sure.
And then even some of the principal actors. So Butch Garrett, who plays Old Joe, who's the
Hmm.
diner owner,
Yeah, he's
he's
great.
actually making, he is, and he's making his, not just his Springfield Little Theater debut, but he is making his theater debut. He has never performed on stage before.
No
And
kidding.
yeah, and a really cool story about that. So he and his wife were season ticket holders for
Hmm.
almost 40 years here at Springfield Little Theater. So he's seen
Okay.
hundreds of productions, and he always kind of had this inkling to be on stage. And then he decided to give it a go, and it's his first time doing it, and it's really cool. It's really
Had
cool
he
to see.
done theater previously, like in high school or college or something? Or
No, not to my knowledge. He just really appreciated it and loved viewing theater, being a patron, and then for him to just take that chance and audition, and it's been a really cool experience, not only for him but for us too. It kind of
well,
reminds us about that magic, why we got involved.
as the lion says in The Wizard of Oz, courage. I mean,
Yes,
that takes a lot of courage to get on that stage.
it does. Yes.
He'll find, since this is his first production, and I've been in theater, but it was many, many years ago, that the worst night of his theater debut will be the night you're done, because he's put all that time and effort in. It's so much fun. I'm sure he's having a ball doing it, and
Mhm.
when it's over, it's over.
Yeah, and it's not just the time on stage, it's those relationships that you form. It's
Sure.
your life for a couple months is the show. You are around these people nonstop. It's almost like having a second job, and so you get really close to them, and you work to create something that is bigger than any one person. And so there is this camaraderie that goes with that, and this
Hmm.
this kind of synergy that we build. And sure, when it's over, it's sad. I still get sad. I've done dozens of these at this point, and I still get a little sad on closing night.
Oh, absolutely. Now, when you're the director of a and choreographer of a program like this, a show like this one, how involved are you in the stage building, the stage set? I mean, do you have a vision? Do you draw it out on like placards and say this is the way I kind of
Yeah.
want this thing to feel and look like, or how does that
So it's
work?
It's a collaborative effort. We have an incredible technical theater
Hmm.
team here at the theater, led by Jamie Bauer, who is actually in the show. He plays Cal, the cook. He is one of
Hmm.
our technical directors, and he is also the lighting and sound designer for the show. And then Corbin Chafin, who is our technical director and scenic designer. He's in his first full season in that role at
Okay.
Springfield Little Theater. And so it's a collaborative effort, kind of what the director's vision is with what the realities of the space are and the constraints of time and what they're able to build. So
Sure.
it's a lot of meetings, kind of figuring out what is going to be the best product and the most efficient build for a show. Considering Springfield Little Theater does 8 to 9 of these big shows a year.
Now, since we're a couple of years after the pandemic, are we back to having understudies? Does each part have an understudy?
The pandemic changed theater, I think, permanently. We
Hmm.
have had understudies in the past, but I think we're in a new era where we do have understudies for all of our principal characters for Waitress.
Hmm.
And the expectation is that they are ready to go, that they know the material. And, the pandemic taught us that you never know what's going to happen. And
No.
sometimes people do need a break,
Yeah.
and they do need a night off, or, they get sick or something happens. And it's encouraging to have another layer of such talented cast members who
Sure.
can hold the show together that night.
Now, Josh, when you were standing, I don't know if you stand behind the curtain on the pre-opening night or if you're standing back in the audience, but when you're watching that last rehearsal and you know that the next night is the night that you're going to have the real deal, but all that time, all that effort has gone into it. What do you see when I've talked to enough basketball and football coaches about you can only do so much. You can't do it on the field. You got to do it before you're on the field. But when you're standing there, what goes on in your mind? What goes on in your stomach when you're watching?
There comes a point where you have to kind of let the show be what it's going to be, and kind of give it over to the cast, because they're the
Hmm.
ones who are on stage every night. And certainly there are times where I might see something during a performance, and then the next night, before the show starts at warm-ups, we might spend a few minutes cleaning up a number or fixing
Hmm.
something that didn't go perfectly the night before. But once you're in that zone and we are to those public performances, for the most part, that's giving it to the cast to enjoy and to celebrate that, and to showcase that to the audience.
Now, before they get into the numbers, and there's many, many numbers, musical numbers in this show, does the cast spend time listening to those numbers performed elsewhere by other people, or do they simply get the music and you start playing and they start singing and you figure out their style with what you're doing? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a mixture of both. Certainly, you'll have cast members who are familiar with the material,
Hmm.
and they'll listen to the original Broadway cast album or other reference recordings. But for a lot of people, this is their first time hearing that music and knowing the show. And so we will start, pretty much every musical starts with music rehearsals. And so the
Hmm.
first couple of weeks are dedicated just to having those music scores in hand and just sitting up in our rehearsal studio with our music director, just plucking out all of those parts. And a show like
Sure.
Waitress is a big sing. It's not just the principals who have all of the singing. The ensemble has so much,
Yes.
just kind of support singing, from off stage.
Yeah, it's incredible that way. How about the choreography? So you've got a principal talent that you love in that role. They look the part, they sound the part, they're giving it their all, and they've got two left feet. What do you do when that happens?
You pick the person who is the right fit for that role, and that doesn't always mean that they are 100% at every facet
Hmm.
of musical theater. Sometimes they're an incredible singer, and an incredible actor, and dancing is maybe not their skill. And you work
Right.
with them, and it
Okay.
goes the other way too. Maybe some of our ensemble members are incredible movers, incredible dancers, and you try to build the show around the talents that you have, especially at community theater. You want to make sure that you're building it around the people and celebrating the people who you have.
Well, I think a good way to measure the success of a show like Waitress was, I think it was about 10:15 when we came out of the theater and realized that 2.5 hours went like that.
Mhm. Yeah, it does go fast.
It was fascinating, and I mean the couldn't wait for the intermission to get back into the show because the show was so much fun.
I'm glad to hear
Yeah,
that. Thanks for
no,
sharing.
it's a wonderful story. We're going to hear more from Josh in just a moment. We're going to take a break on Around the Ozarks Spotlight. I'm your host, Scott Meier, back in just a minute.
Hey, everybody, it's Ethan and Sarah Forhetz from your favorite podcast, Around the Ozarks in 5. I'm sure you've been wondering, how can I get even more amazing stories, events, and witty banter to start my day?
Well, look no further. Here we are. Sign up for our daily newsletter. You'll have what's going on around the Ozarks right at your fingertips each weekday morning.
Yeah, just go to aroundtheozarks.com, click on the newsletter tab to sign up.
Thanks for listening to Around the Ozarks in 5. We hope to see you in your inbox soon.
Welcome back to Around the Ozarks Spotlight. I'm your host, Scott Meier. With me, the very talented Josh Inmon, who's the director, choreographer of the current production of the hit Broadway musical Waitress at Springfield's Little Theater. We're about midway through the run, and you said tickets are going fast. How do people get tickets at this point? Because they're going to probably have to scratch them out pretty quick.
Yeah, the best thing to do is to go to the website of Springfield Little Theater, which is just springfieldlittletheater.org.
Mm-hmm. And get them and pick them up there.
Yeah, and something I'd like to quickly mention too is we're starting to see more and more scalpers in our community.
Really? Yeah.
I work at Juanita K. Hammonds Hall, and I oversee marketing for that facility. So we're very used to it there. But we're also starting to see scalpers and third-party sellers trickle down to community arts organizations as well. So it's really important that people go directly to the source to get their tickets. So springfieldlittletheater.org. You're always going to pay the lowest price if you just go directly to the source.
And you'll be assured of getting a seat.
Yes, a lot more.
Because
a lot more sure of it than if you go to a scalper site, for sure.
That's right. That's no question about that. So what's next on board for you? So the show itself will be done here, what, on the 16th?
Yes. Yep,
and I know you don't go into a cave and go into hibernation, even though it's the winter.
Mm-hmm. I don't have any upcoming shows planned. I'm taking a little bit of a break. I'll probably do something next season. But I'm right now. I'm just looking forward to the break and focusing on my work at Juanita K. Hammonds Hall, and then
sure.
I'm lucky enough to still be in the organization quite a bit, and so I teach pretty much weekly here with Yes Troupe, which is their high school troupe. So I'm always doing something in the arts, but as far as shows, I'll take a few months off.
It's a lot of work. When did you start this one? When did you start talking to possible actors for the show and then make the determination? How long ago was that?
So our auditions for this show were in mid-November,
wow.
Which is a little earlier than usual. But when we are working on this slot, we take 2 weeks off for Christmas, and so we had to back things up. But a typical process for Springfield Little Theater shows is 8 weeks of rehearsal. And so we will, pretty much Sunday through Thursday evenings, 7 to 10 p.m., we're in rehearsals for 8 weeks. And then we put it all together the last week. We open up for audiences, and then we'll run anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, depending on what the title is.
It's amazing the amount of time that people give up, including yourself, for either very little pay or no pay at all.
And Springfield Little Theater is a volunteer-driven organization. And so we have 40 people on stage. All of those actors are volunteers, which a lot of people do not realize. But it goes deeper than that. It's the backstage crew are all volunteers. So many people in the costume shop, so many of the ushers, so many people in the organization are just there because they love it. And I think there's something to be said about that. It's really fun to be in the building with so many people who want to be there because they want to be, because they love the product, they love the people there, and I think that shows. I think that's
it's a team effort. There's no question. And again, this show, Waitress, brings it all together. I mean, between the music, the choreography, and the acting is great. I mean, the actors. Sometimes it almost appears as though some actors can be going through a role, participating in a role. These actors and actresses involved in Waitress appear to be really involved in the production.
I was leaving the theater last week after one of the shows, and I heard somebody give what I think is one of the biggest compliments for this show is she was telling the person she was with that everybody on stage just seems so present and in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's one of the biggest compliments, because they're just fully committed to that story, and you can tell when people are enjoying it, when they're
Yeah.
up there having fun. So.
Oh, no question. We talked a little bit before the program about the Judy. Can you tell folks what the Judy is and how that works in case we've got some people listening that want to get their kids involved in theater?
Absolutely. So I'm actually sitting in the Judy right now.
Okay.
The Judith Inyart Reynolds School of the Performing Arts is a relatively new acquisition for Springfield Little Theater. I think they've been in this building since I believe it's 2018 is when they moved in. The Judy is named after Judith Inyart Reynolds, and it is the education facility. And so many, many years ago, when I was in high school, when I was doing stuff at Springfield Little Theater, everything was based at the Landers Theater on Walnut Street. And the organization, specifically the education department, has just grown just so large that they had to get their own building. And so there are hundreds and hundreds of students who come through the doors every week in this building. And I always say there is a place for everyone at Springfield Little Theater. I think that's one of the things that I'm most proud of to be a part of this organization is whether you want to, help with set construction, whether you have a 4-year-old who wants to take a summer workshop or a summer camp class, there is something for everyone. And so here at the Judy, they offer weekly classes in acting, musical theater, dance, voice, you name it, they offer it. And then they also have a partnership with Springfield Public Schools. And so there are 2 5th grade classes who their school is the Judy. And so they immerse themselves in the arts. And it's incredible. I'm always surprised. Every time I'm over here, there's something new and exciting happening.
Are there age limits?
So most of the summer stuff starts at age 4.
Okay. Age 4?
Yeah. Summer programming is 4 through 18.
Okay.
And I believe that most of the classes here, I'll have to check, but I believe it's 7 or 8 is the youngest for that. But like I said, there is an opportunity for everyone here.
Josh Inmon, my guest today on Around the Ozarks Spotlight. Josh, the director and choreographer, and I can't say enough about the choreography of Waitress, which is the play and musical that's happening right now at the Springfield Little Theater on Walnut. And I see that at the Judy, they also do some productions. It says they're doing Frozen soon and The Giver.
Yes. Yeah. And so the cool thing about the Judy is, they have converted in this old McDaniel school building that used to belong to Springfield Public Schools. There is a cafetorium, a gymatorium, whatever you want to call it, that they have converted into their performing arts space. And so I would say that performing arts space rivals even some of the best black box theaters that I've been in. The technology and just what they are able to do, the education team here at the Judy, it is incredible. The just quality of those productions is incredible. It's truly incredible.
Does Beth come to you when she puts together or when they put together a series and say, "Would you produce this one for us?" Or do you raise your hand and say, "Hey, I want to do one this season. I would prefer to do. I've seen the list. This is the one I'd like to do." How do they make that decision?
It's a little bit of both. Certainly as Beth is preparing the season and kind of looking at what titles are available, maybe what they haven't done in a long time that they want to bring back. It's an open dialogue, so she might have an idea of what she wants someone to do or what she wants to do, and the same thing. I might have an idea of a show that I'm dying to do, and can we slot that in the season? So it's a dialogue, and Beth and Lorianne, the education director, they're both incredible about that collaboration and really working with us.
Now, at the Symphony, I know, we get pressure all the time. There's certainly a lot of people that like classical music, But there's a lot of people that like more modern music as well. And the reason we don't do as many of those types of shows really falls on the shoulders of the costs. There's a
Mhm.
lot of costs, inherent costs that come with current music. It's pretty
Mhm.
tough to get Bach to come out and ask for some money, but you know, if you're playing the music of Journey, somebody wants a cut. What is it
Mhm.
like for you when you have a show like Waitress? Are there a lot of hoops to jump through to be able to get the show itself? Do you have to does it cost a lot of money? And are
Yeah.
there other shows you'd like to do that maybe you can't, or that you're hoping that they bring the cost down so you can?
I think without going into the financial details, I think people would be shocked at just how much of an expense it is to produce live theater. That
Hmm.
doesn't really matter what level you're at. It could be the community theater level. It could be professionally. The
Sure.
theater industry is not designed to have a very high profit margin. It's pretty
Hmm.
tight. Even if a show makes money, it's pretty tight.
Yeah.
Something like Waitress, that is a contemporary title. We are actually one of the first community theaters in the nation to be granted the rights to do the show, which is an
No
incredible
kidding.
honor. Yeah, yeah, and
Sure.
it's incredible, and it speaks to the organization. The reputation that they have, not here just in the community, but nationwide, worldwide. People know Springfield Little Theater, and they know that
Hmm.
if that's going to be an organization that produces your show, that it's going to be top notch. And so Beth was actually approached by the licensing company for Waitress, asking if they wanted to be one of the first to do it. And of course, she said yes. And it's finding the right
Sure.
time when that kind of slides into the right slot in the season.
Hmm.
Um, and it's been really fun. As you know, because you saw the show, it's a little bit different than maybe some of the other titles that SLT is known for. It's not
Hmm.
necessarily a family title. It's an adult title, and so that's
Yes.
that's different for main stage, for Springfield Little Theater. But the audiences have been so receptive, and I think it helps that the music is by Sarah Bareilles, the pop
Uh-huh.
artist, and so I think having that contemporary artist be a part of that and have that sound is something new, on our stage, and it's been a really incredible experience.
Oh, I think anybody that walked out that I heard the night we were there walked out couldn't say enough. I mean, it's just the step above. The community theater is amazing. I've seen a lot of community theater. Never seen community theater like we have here in Springfield. I mean, this is a notch above anyway. This really is almost traveling Broadway level in
Mhm.
terms of talent and music and that sort of thing. And I've seen enough of those to say we could compete at that level if we had to.
Mhm.
But we're really blessed, like you said, the amount of talent in this area, and the amount of talent, and now if you've got kids starting over at the Judy at 4, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
again, it's like a football team. You've got the junior varsity and the freshman squad, and then you got the senior varsity. I mean, they just keep coming.
It's really incredible. And when I started doing stuff at the Landers, about 20 years ago, 22 years ago, um, Yes Troop at the time was about 13 of us, in
Hmm.
that troop. And now the troop program has expanded, not just, the high schoolers, but it goes all the way to elementary. And so there's literally hundreds of students who are receiving that training now.
Wow.
And it's grown from literally a one-person team of Lorianne Dunn. And she gets all of the credit for that because she has expanded this program to literally be its own organization, under the
Sure.
umbrella of Springfield Little Theater. And it's really exciting to see. And I think we're starting to see the fruits of all that labor.
Yeah.
Some of our students, we have a student who tonight is in 6 on Broadway. She just graduated from the program a few years
Is that
ago,
right?
and she is
Wow.
in New York, doing what she loves. And
Well, that begs a question. Before we run out of time,
yeah,
you talk to people that have kids that play football or baseball or whatever they do, girls basketball, and from time to time there'll be scouts in the stands. Do you find that with Springfield Little Theater's reputation, sometimes are there scouts in the seats from Los Angeles or New York?
I think I don't know that it's necessarily scouting per se, but
Hmm.
like I said, people know Springfield Little Theater. Outside of this community, just those 3 words, Springfield Little Theater, has quite a reputation. And if you're a theater artist, or um, if you work in this industry, a lot of people know this organization. And have pretty high expectations, which is a great thing. When you go into a show at the Landers, like you said, that it's going to be a certain quality,
Yeah.
and the expectation is there, and Springfield Little Theater meets it.
Go see Waitress if you can. Buy some tickets. Again, Josh, how can they get tickets?
SpringfieldLittleTheater.org, or you can call the box office.
Well, let's do that. I want to thank my guests today on Around the Ozark Spotlight, Josh Inmon. Also, my producers, Taylor Dempster and Jay Stevens, as well as all of you for joining us. If you happen to miss all or part of today's program, you can find ATO Spotlight on AroundTheOzarks.com, or also Facebook, Instagram, X, or our app for ATO, which can be found in Apple and Android app stores. I'm Scott Meier. Remember, every day's a gift.